day 18, maybe day 19 of the 8th annual Blue Mind online book club. And I am sitting in a tree overlooking that. I guess that's a better use of the lighting situation here. But anyway, the light filters differently when you move the camera around. And we are continuing to read chapter 2, which is, I'm going to be a little bit brief today. Got a little low battery, got some weather issues and phone charging issues, etc. But we are reading chapter 2 of this book. This is my wet copy. I'm out here in the rain, chapter 2. The section that we're on is called What Does the Brain Do? And I'll just read a couple pages today. Page 34. And this chapter starts out with a quote from Ray Kurzweil, who's an author, inventor, futurist. And I asked him, after an event that featured a new documentary film about his life, I asked him why he loves the ocean. And there's a great clip on YouTube somewhere. If you type in Ray Kurzweil, Kurzweil, and why he loves the ocean, or why do you love the ocean, you'll find the YouTube clip. Ray said, it's a metaphor for how the brain is organized. I just thought that was very insightful. He's a math guy, an inventor. You can learn more about him. I'm just going to read a couple pages, and we'll keep this brief tonight because I'm worried about rain coming down on top of us here and getting everything soaked. The 3-pound mass of fat and protein that sits atop the spinal cord is not only mostly water, but itself rests in a kind of water, clear, colorless cerebrospinal fluid composed of living cells, including immune cells that eliminate infectious pathogens from the nervous system. Glucose, protein, lactate, minerals, and water that cushions the brain from injury, maintains pressure in the cranium at a constant level, and provides enough buoyancy to reduce the brain's effective weight from 1,400 grams to between 25 and 50 grams, thus preventing it from putting too much pressure on its lower levels and cutting off its blood supply. In other words, your brain is floating in an ocean inside your skull. I was introduced to my own, I mentioned this in the preface for this book, I was introduced to my own nervous system quite abruptly at a young age. As a kid, when I was in the hospital for a month with something called spinal meningitis, which is infection of the brain and spine and basically your the infection of your brain, your nervous system, and your spinal cord. Bacterial spinal meningitis, not good. And so any glitches that I have neurologically now, I blame on that. By weight, the brain is the biggest consumer of the body's energy, using approximately 20 to 25% of its oxygen and 60% of its glucose for communication between neurons and cell health maintenance. So we talked earlier about how if you're exhausted and you haven't been using your body, your muscles, but you've been thinking a lot, particularly if you're translating or if you're on live TV or on live stream, or you're trying to read your audiobook and just keep starting over and over, it's exhausting, mental exhaustion. Or if you're going through an emotionally difficult period, it's mentally exhausting, and that's because your brain uses a lot of oxygen and glucose. So my tip is apple juice for those situations. And the rain is starting here, so I'm gonna keep reading, and we're gonna keep this brief. Sorry, we don't have a lot more left to read in chapter 2, but your brain contains approximately 1.1 trillion cells, of which anywhere from 85 to 100 billion are neurons, what we call gray matter, and most of the rest are axons and glia, white matter. The glia perform metabolic support functions, such as wrapping the conducting axons in myelin, a whitish protein and lipid sheath for nerves, and recycling neurotransmitters. But the anatomy doesn't really tell us much about the brain, what the brain actually does. When it comes to interpreting those vast complexities of the human brain, Howard Fields of the University of California, San Francisco is an excellent guide. Gray-haired and grandfatherly with an infectious smile, he's not only a world-class researcher, but also a brilliant explainer. I love brilliant researchers who are also excellent explainers, like Howard Fields or Bob Sapolsky at Stanford, or Sylvia Earle when it comes to the ocean. She's so good at, Dr. Sylvia Earle is so good at explaining things in just really accessible ways to broad audience. While major new discoveries about neurons are made almost every year, Fields told me, the best description of their purpose is as encoders of perception and action. Encoders of perception and action. Neuronal cell bodies, he said, are electrochemical, digital on-off switches connected by their axonal wires in an intricate network inside your head. And a very intricate network it is. There are billions of neurons in the human brain, and each one can connect with tens of thousands of others. Billions of neurons connected to tens of thousands of others. Think about that. Making trillions of connections. By interconnecting, groups of neurons create neural networks that produce every conscious and unconscious impulse, response, or thought you may have, from your ability to sense an itch and scratch your nose in response to the ordinary and exceptional mental activities of attending, perceiving, remembering, feeling, and reasoning. So if these things we do, attending, perceiving, remembering, feeling, and reasoning, seem other than topics for science to explore to you, then you need this chapter. You need a lesson in an explanation from Dr. Howard Fields. This is what your nervous system does, and as we discussed, it's your brain, it's your spinal cord, but it's also all of the other nerves that innervate your entire body, all of your organs, and even like the very tips of your fingers and the tips of your nose, and your eyeballs, so on and so forth. Your gut, your heart. They also trigger the cascades of neurochemicals that mediate our emotions and behaviors in response to stress. By tracking different neural networks in different individuals, neuroscientists can create topographic maps of the brain, neuroimaging. Although this mapping can be exceedingly difficult, as there are often multiple networks performing different parts of the same function. For instance, the network responsible for the hand bringing food to your mouth is different from the network that directs the more subtle and delicate finger movements used when you hold a pen and write. The complexity of these networks is hinted at in sheer quantity. Our neuron count exceeds the closest primates by an order of magnitude. That's times 10. But in the end, it's the quality of cognition and dexterity that most amazes. How can the brain make sense of the vast storm of perceptions and other stimuli that are flooding our senses every moment? And that's where we're going to pause, because the book is getting wet, I'm getting wet, and according to the forecast, this rain is going to go from this current drizzle to a stronger bit of moisture. So in the interest of that, I will turn things over for a moment to just give you a little bit of a blue mind moment here. Let's just get that focused on something more important than my face. Oop, dropped the book. So I'm standing in a sea of ice plant, which is an invasive species, but it's really nice to stand on or take a nap in. Sitting in a tree, of which that is one. This is where I was sitting. And now you can see the ocean. And I'll stop talking and you can listen. Hello. Okay, in the interest of not just having the battery drop out and who knows what happening to the recorded footage here, I'm going to press the stop button. Short and sweet this evening. Good to see everybody. We'll be doing a little more reading tomorrow, exactly at the same time. We'll try to get out to a different part of the coast tomorrow. Maybe go north a little bit and show you some other terrain. It will look surprisingly a lot like this because this is the California coast, but maybe there'll be a little more sunshine. There's that is water. See all those clouds up there? That's the ocean. This is a tree. Tree is mostly water. I'm mostly water, but all of that, all those clouds, those are made of water. So just a reminder, ice, snow, fog, clouds, rain, mist, oceans, lakes, rivers, waterfalls, bathtubs, pools, all blue mind, all of it, everywhere you go. So if anybody ever says, I don't live near the water, they're not telling you an accurate story. Everybody lives near the water, all of us. We all do. So you just have to seek it out. It doesn't have to be an ocean. It can be, you could be in the middle of the driest desert and I guarantee you there's moisture and there's water and there's the occasional cloud. There's probably some fog. Having lived in the Sonoran Desert myself for graduate school, I assure you, it does rain and the plants love that rain. There are springs. Those monsoon storms are powerful and beautiful. There are flash floods. There are wildflower blooms. And there's probably an even stronger appreciation for blue mind among those people in the desert, among the animals in the desert and the plants. So anyhow, see you tomorrow exactly at